has a big impact on the environment, and we have stepped that up. We have an excellent recycling committee who has really come forward and done a lot of work. We also have had a change in the trash pickup, because we saw a marked increase in tonnage in trash pickup. And we were not sure if that was due to the flood storms of approximately 6 months ago, 9 months ago. So we've actually, Mr. Hamlin has actually instructed our trash haulers not to pick up anything that can be recycled. And they have been doing that, because I've actually noticed that in the neighborhood. I think that is one of the biggest things we can do as far as the environment goes, is the recycling. Off the top of my head, I just can't think of any other two big items right now that would affect it.
Mr. Dorsey?
I would agree with Joe, recycle, maybe we can, the water resource, we can certainly try to limit the water, which we do all the time, but I think the recycling is a big thing, and I think the recycling board does a great job, but I think they may be able to even promote it more, because to tell you the truth, I never did it, but now I'm doing it. So I think they do a great job, and you know, they talk about trash police, and I know nobody wants to go through the trash, but if they won't pick it up, you're gonna have to recycle it. So I think that was, Mr. Hanlon come up with a good idea as far as that.
And Mr. Mosseri?
Well, certainly recycling is an important one, but I can think of 3 others that the town needs to be putting focus on. The first is creation of a sewer district to alleviate the issues at Martins Pond and the Route 28 district. And as you know, the pond is affected by various chemicals and things that are flowing into it. The sewer district would go a long way to helping and resolving that issue. Second is looking into revamping our fleet, not necessarily the police cruisers, but other vehicles that the town uses, and look to adding green vehicles to the vehicle pool. And Mr. Harris, one of our selectmen, has picked that up as a project. And lastly, we certainly can be doing a lot in making our buildings more efficient from the point of view of heat loss and cost of lighting.
Would any of you care to take advantage of a 1-minute rebuttal?
Almost said
Okay, move on then. Every year, the town seeks an override of 2.5. Why can't the town seek alternate solutions to the money requirements? And I'll start with Mr. Dorsey.
Well, I know I went to the town meeting last night, and I heard that they want a 3-year override. And I will tell you that I am not for a 3-year override. I will support a 1-year override, because I don't want to hurt the school children. I have 3 granddaughters, 2 in a little school, and I know we have to educate our children. But I want to look at the 2nd year as far as what we need. And I believe what Mr. Harris and Mr. Gardino said is as far as revenues. We don't know what we're going to have for revenues, and we're only guessing as expenses. So I am adamant against a 3-year override. And I believe my other opponents are for the 3-year override. But I cannot support a 3-year override. I will support the 1-year override.
Thank you. Mr. Mosseri?
Well, first of all, we haven't come forth to the town for an override each year, and I'm talking about an override to support our operating expenses. I'm excluding the debt overrides, which are related to restructuring of the police station, the Batchelder School renovations, etc. So it was 3 years ago that we did an override, requested an override primarily for the school budget. in terms of how we can avoid it in the future, one is Proposition 2.5, allows for only a certain amount of revenue. And the balance of the revenue increase each year is tied into fees and state aid. So certainly we should be working with our state legislatures to improve the amount of state aid, or increase the amount of state aid that we're receiving. Second, we should be looking to expanding our commercial tax base. This is one way of increasing our revenue without putting the burden on the homeowners in North Reading. These are the things that we need to do. With respect to the mentioned 1 year versus 3 year override, the purpose of putting together a 3-year plan that was presented last evening was specifically to allow for the community to take a look at the needs going forward. And to propose a 3-year override is based on, which I support, is based on the concept of providing the revenues to support that 3-year plan, but only taxing to what is required in each year. So if revenues are in excess of what is forecasted, then we would not tax to that level.
Thank you, and Mr. Vino.
Yes, could I hear the question one more time, please? I didn't hear our
Okay, every
feeling
year,
on the override in that question, but I'm just want to know if I
I
missed it.
think you've got the gist of it. Every year, the town seeks an override of 2.5. Why can't the town seek alternate solutions to the money requirements?
Okay, so I was right. But anyway, okay. Part of the problem is, as Bob has said, we have Proposition 2.5, which we have to live by. And the only other way to get money from the residents of the town would be fees. And fees, I don't like fees, because most fees are not deductible at the end of the year when you do your taxes. If you raise money through fees, yes, you may not have to go to a Proposition 2.5 override, but I don't like adding on fees. To get more money from the state, that would be fantastic, if we could. But the problem is, you have 251 cities and towns all trying to get their hand in that pot, and everybody is going to get a little bit. To raise the commercial base would be excellent, and this is one of the advantages. If we get the sewerage, if we can get Concord Street sewered, we will get rid of the trucking depots that are down there, and we will get some good commercial-based property in there, I feel. So that is another way that we can take some of the burden off. I am going to comment on the other half of the question that my opponents here commented on. I have supported the 1 and the 3-year override. I supported to put them on the ballot because I feel we should always give the voter the chance to make the choice. There was a lot of pressure not to support the 3-year, but I don't feel that's right. Let the voter make the decision. Whenever that is possible, that is how I will vote. That's how I voted, to put the 1 and the 3-year both on the ballot. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like 1 minute rebuttal? Okay.
I would just like to add to the discussion here that one of the issues that we face each year is an ever-growing fixed cost area, which is driven primarily from our employee benefits. One area of real growth has been the health insurance, and we certainly need to work both with the state and with our employee unions to find ways to reduce the ever-increasing cost of that. Over the past 4 years, we've had a growth rate of, past 5 years, a growth rate of about 55%.
Could I speak to that issue? Could I speak to that issue?
You have 1 minute, yes.
Everybody's doing this blame game on the health insurance. The unions asked the Board of Selectmen 2 years ago to put the health contract out for bid, and they did not. We had a discussion at the town meeting, and nothing happened. We had a discussion last night about the health insurance, and nothing. We have not had the town go out for bid in 2 years. That's a failure of the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Vino?
No, I'll just
Okay.
comment.
Okay, the next question. It's kind of interesting, I've never come across this question. How could we get more people to run for office? And I'll start with Mr. Mosseri.
How can we get more people to run for office? I've been scratching my head on that one for a long time. I think that clearly we need to get back to grassroots there and get various groups interested in solving some of the issues in the community. And I think out of these grassroots come people, people become leaders, and then leaders have interest in participating in town government. The other thing is that there are a number of committees that are both appointed by the town administrator and by the Board of Selectmen, and we've been reasonably successful in filling these committees. Within those committees are potential leaders for the community, and I think that we've got to find some way of making these positions more attractive to them. I think when people read about the headaches that we face associated with balancing our budgets and solving some of the town problems, maybe a lot of people don't think or think twice about jumping in feet first. But certainly there are a core of people out there, and specifically a core of young people that we need to attract to these various positions. And I applaud Mike Harris for running last year and being elected. I think he's the youngest member of all of the committees in the community at this point.
Mr. Vino?
Thank you. I really don't know of any way we can recruit people to run for public office. I've spoke to a number of people, and, it's a tough job. It's a tough job, especially the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. You have to make some very tough decisions. You have to sometimes, people are gonna get upset at you, but a politician in town, I won't mention his name, he told me one thing 12 years ago before I got on the Board of Selectmen. He said, remember one thing, Joe, half the time the people will be mad at you, the other half will not be mad at you, and that'll change in 6 months. It all depends how you vote on an issue. So I can understand why people do not want to put themselves up on the firing line. Why do we do it? Well, I guess we kind of enjoy it. It kind of gets to grow on you after a while, being on the board. I know how you could have this room flooded with people, but it'll never happen if we had all the money in the world to spend, because then nobody would be afraid of offending anybody. And Mel is shaking his head because he knows I'm correct. Yes. I would imagine back in the 60s and 50s, it was probably pretty enjoyable to be sitting up there. I'm not saying it's not enjoyable now, but it's probably pretty enjoyable to have all the money you needed when you actually had to close a school because you didn't have enough children in the schools. It had to be quite different. But I do enjoy it, but I do understand why people do not want to, quote unquote, put their head on the chopping block, because these are pretty tough times. Money is very tight, and we have to make some very hard decisions. The answer is, I don't know how we recruit them. I've actually asked people, and I can understand their reluctance, and they say no.
Mr. Dorsey?
I don't know, maybe you have to be crazy. I don't know the answer.
Speak for yourself.
I guess you just, maybe when the young people see us up here, they say, hey, this old guy's trying to do something, maybe we should try to do something. I don't know, with the flower children are getting old, and maybe hopefully, Mr. Harris will step up to the plate.